Hey everybody, and welcome back to Ready Steady Play.
Good evening.
I'm here with Ollie.
Nice to see you all.
What were you last playing on the channel, Ollie?
Let's see. The Wall of Games is slightly off camera. Not actually sure.
Is it Spirit Island?
I thought it was maybe the Clans game. Clans of Caledonia? What was that?
Were you here for Clans?
You
didn't play Clans of Caledonia. That was Matthew and...
I've played Clans.
That was Michael
Was
and...
it not here?
No, Clans was Michael and Chris.
Oh, it's been a while, I know that.
Well,
We've had game sessions since then, they've just not been on camera.
it all blurs into one. Okay. Well, welcome back.
Good to be back.
So we're here for a sort of special game. I say special game because we don't really know what to expect. I've been doing a few of these recently where it's sort of like This War of Mine and Harry Potter and Now Legacy of Dragonholt, where it's sort of like pick it up and just kind of start playing and it'll sort of teach you as you go and sort of gently, and Fog of Love as well, and just introduce you to the mechanics as you play through it rather than, read the rulebook and learn everything all up front. But I guess this is sort of a different one in the sense that Legacy of Dragonholt is very much a choose-your-own-adventure type thing.
Which is quite exciting.
It's quite exciting. It means we're very unprepared. We've made these character sheets. Well, actually, I say we're unprepared. Maybe we've over-prepared because we didn't spend time reading the rulebook. What we did do is spend time inventing characters and writing fluff.
I would say the rulebook is 8 pages long. We did read it.
We did read it.
And the rulebook even said, if you're playing the version of the game we're playing, you don't have to read the rulebook.
Well, exactly.
Which was great. I love that game.
It's a choose-your-own-adventure style thing. It's sort of marketed as play D&D without the Dungeon Master.
Yeah, that's going to be...
I can't imagine how that would work, but I think what it will sort of... Well, I don't know what to expect. So we're going to play through it. We're going to start with the first one because it's called New Roads.
Yep.
The first module. I think there's 6 or 7 modules in Legacy of Dragonholt. This is 2 new roads, and it's the first adventure.
And it's explicitly, it teaches you how to play the game while you're going through it, which I think is really cool for a game like this because usually the biggest barrier is explaining to everyone how to play. So the fact they've made that into its own game is going to be quite exciting. And it does say don't read ahead, so don't read ahead.
Yep, don't flip through it, don't read ahead.
But it does also mean that this is probably the first game we've played where there's next to nothing on the table when we start because it's not out yet. There is a map and there's some other stuff, but we're not allowed to see them yet.
It's in the box.
Yes.
Although it does instruct us to get the letter from Circe, so I'll have to get that in a minute.
Yeah.
But we did play, we played, the Cthulhu one. Tales of...
Tales of? I thought I was going to say Mansions of Madness.
No, okay, so Mansions of Madness is interesting because I love the Mansions of Madness 2nd edition with the app. And the designer of that is Nikki Valens, who also designed Legacy of Dragonholt. So I really like that game. I like her work, so I'm very excited about this. But we played another game on this channel, which was sort of like a storytelling, reading, puzzle-solving Cthulhu game. And I played that with Barry and
wasn't me.
Danny, and it didn't have a lot of table space either. It was just sort of a map and a book, and we're reading from the book and trying to solve puzzles. And it's sort of similar to Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, but I've forgotten the name of it. Tales of something. What I'll probably do is put the name up on the show and make myself look like an idiot. To
be fair, you'll be making yourself look like an idiot. So technically, you'll be making yourself look like an idiot, but also showing off your intelligence because you found it.
Well, it is on my channel. Curse my fallible human brain.
Oh, that's what's wrong with you. Fallible human.
Humanity, that's my problem.
You need to get past that.
I need to become a robot. But there's no robots in this. This is high fantasy. For those of you that don't know, this is Tales of... this is Legacy of Dragonholt, but it's set in the Terrinoth universe. Actually, I say Terrinoth. Terrinoth is actually just a continent in the Menara universe. There's other continents as well. I think...
we won't be going to them.
Zangara is one of them. But this is a universe that's sort of Fantasy Flight have developed out of all of their previous games. They had a number of games like the original Descent and Dragon Quest, which was actually loosely based on the old world from Warhammer because it was a GW game originally. But FFG had the license for GW stuff for a long time, and they adopted a lot of those games. And so this universe kind of grew out of the need to have a high fantasy IP. And
that wasn't Games Workshop.
And they do actually have the license to Middle Earth as well, to Tolkien, but they don't use that. They wanted to have their own IP as well. So that's, I mean, they, for example, it would be very weird if they had their own miniatures game set in the Tolkien universe, because of course that's GW's thing.
Yeah, and GW are fiercely protective of that.
But they did want to have their own fantasy miniatures game, so they set it in the Terrinoth universe, and that's Rune Wars.
Yes.
But you can also find Descent 2nd Edition now with the Road to Legends app that controls the monsters for you. I'm really interested in that as well, actually, because that's sort of like the Mansions of Madness it's sort of idea, but
gonna be very
fantasy dungeon crawling.
Very cool synthesis of computer controlled and pen and paper.
So that's set in the Terrinoth universe. Runebound is set in the Terrinoth universe. Dragon Quest is now set in the Terrinoth universe, although I suspect because GW have taken the license away, that'll move back to the old world or some other generic fantasy IP if they reprint it.
Possibly.
I believe Talisman was set in the Terrinoth universe for a while as well, but I could be wrong. They've got there's a whole load of them, and they're also various different styles of board games. And now just recently they've announced Realms of Terrinoth, which is a high fantasy Terrinoth supplement for their Genesis RPG system. So lots and lots of Terrinoth stuff for you to get stuck into if you're interested in it.
Really expanded it.
Yeah, they're really aggressively developing that IP, which makes sense because they've got a lot of board games and properties, and they want to have a setting for it.
And it means we get to play this.
So this is set in that universe. It is sort of very Tolkien and old world-esque. Leaning more sort of towards Tolkien, I think, than Warhammer. It's a little less sort of gritty and grimy, but it takes on sort of different forms as well, because
but I would say the very key difference between this and the Tolkien universe is the treatment of orcs, because they are considered a civilized race. Like you read through some of the descriptions, you go like, oh, this version of the gnomes is very hobbity, but then they've gone a completely different way with the orcs and gone, they're a civilized species, they have their own culture, and they're not just the antagonist.
Well, yeah, the orcs in this are actually sort of a less aggressive, more collaborative, friendly sort of version of the orcs from World of Warcraft. Like that kind of feel, sort of with the civilization, with their own culture, but not as integrated maybe as the other, but definitely not Tolkien orcs.
Yeah, and also definitely not the kind of orc where they don't accept anyone, because it even says in the character creation guide what races get on with each other, which is quite a clever little thing, because it gives you an excuse for some unconventional pairings, I'd say. Well,
you get these places called free cities, which are sort of exist outside of the cultures of the established races.
Yeah.
Where you get a huge intermingling of all the different races, which is very cool. And I like
good melting pot.
Exactly.
And it's actually how a city works.
And then they've got they've got your typical elves. We've got humans that exist sort of in various different forms, like the Dakan are the sort of typical humans.
Yeah, and then the free cities are predominantly human run, I think, is how they've explained it. But they're welcoming.
There is definitely in this and then there's gnomes and there's dwarves.
Yep. Got to be a dwarf in a fantasy setting. You can't not have it.
Got to have a dwarf.
Yeah.
And they live in the mountains. Shock horror.
Yeah. Guess they're also really good at mining.
Then the elves live in the forests, but then there's this, and they've done a nice sort of blending of things. Like the elves come from the forest, but then there's a free city called Darksmoor, where the elves sort of mingle with the humans, and those elves are a bit more like sort of multicultural than your standard elf. Then you've got your gnomes, which are very much a take on the hobbits from Lord of the Rings. And you've got your Burra gnomes, which are basically hobbits.
Yeah, essentially it's...
And your wandering gnomes, who are sort of like... They're basically the Fellowship, right? The hobbits that went off in the Fellowship. But that's very cool. Yeah. And Then you've got catfolk
which
thrown in.
Yeah, I mean it's funny in the creation guide it even says they're incredibly rare. So
well, half cats are very rare. The catfolk themselves are probably the least populous of the races on Terrinoth, but they're still present.
Yeah, but I'd say one of the key factors in why they're probably the least populous is the rule in the character creation guide of every so often unmarried males are kicked out. Like that's going to do a lot to limit your numbers.
Yeah, apparently in catfolk culture, if you don't get married or show productivity by a certain age, you get kicked out.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
But
glad we don't have that here.
Yeah, right?
That would be terrible.
So we've got... so I don't know much about the villains in Legacy of Dragonholt. I mean, I know that there's the undead or the villains in Rune Wars. They sort of come in the main box fighting the Dakan. God, I'm going to get all these names wrong and people are going to be mad at me.
To be fair, most of if you put an unnecessary Q in a word to make it more fantasy-like, don't be surprised if people mispronounce it.
They've just released the Latari elves for Rune Wars, but in Descent to a little bit, but mostly actually in Battle Lore, which is also set in Terrinoth. Battle Lore primarily focused on the wars between the Dakan and demons of some kind. I can't remember what they were called. They had a specific name, but they were basically just big badass demons that wanted to murder you. And there was...
Why not?
So there's definitely sort of like undead and big demons and stuff, but I don't know what this is going to focus on. Those demons seem to be sort of... In Battle Lore, it seems that it's entirely focused on this demon war, and now the demons seem to have completely disappeared from the lore.
You say that, but in this, part of the backstory for the dwarf faction mentions the Dragon War.
Yeah, the Dragon War.
Dragons may show up, maybe their creatures and their servants, because it mentions the Dragon Lords are responsible for the runes that are going to be used. So the rune stones are created by Dragon Lords, so they might be villains. And that's
a big part of Terrinoth Legacy. Obviously, this is called Legacy of Dragonholt, but practically every other game set in Terrinoth has got runes somewhere in the title. And that's because the premise is that magic in this world is wild and sort of untamable and very dangerous to use. And what this one great wizard did is channel all of the magic into this giant crystal, which dragons then shattered and spread all the pieces around the world.
As
those
you do.
Pieces contain magic and allow people to use it safely. And the dragons inscribed runes on all of these stones to sort of give them different effects and different powers.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool because it meant that it even says anyone can use runes. Like the rune stones, anyone can use them. That's the whole purpose of them. So it gives you an excuse of why your brawler suddenly had a magical spell that they'd been hiding. They might have found this thing ages ago and been saving it until absolutely dire circumstances.
But it's unclear whether the rune's exhausted after its use, because in Rune Wars, the Dakan have these things called crystal golems, which are giant rock golems that are animated by crystal runes that have been set into them. And in the way it kind of functions in game mechanics is every turn you throw these coins, almost tokens that look like this, that have symbols on each side. And based on what symbols show face up on the table determines the sort of flow of the winds of magic, which determines the actions that the crystal golem can take.
Yeah.
So that kind of, I think, sort of sums up the way magic kind of works in Terrinoth.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be a bit of a link to Warpstone in Warhammer. That
probably not far off. Yeah,
it was this substance that was dangerously magical and can power a lot of stuff, but it's very unsafe. Whereas runestones they're prescribed what they can and can't do. Although there is a skill that lets you be very sneaky with how you use them.
Got that skill, but before I get into exactly who my character is, I was just going to say that I don't think the runes in this mutate you or drive you insane like Warpstone.
We don't know for sure.
I don't think they're as addictive as Warpstone either, but we'll have to see.
If we find a race of ratmen, I'm on the money.
I've not encountered ratmen in Terrinoth so far, but I don't know. I haven't played that much Descent, so maybe they show up in Descent. If you know, leave a comment below.
Yeah, let us know.
So I am going to be Hunter, the High Rinks Catfolk Wildlander character.
Yep. because he just couldn't. Well, he wasn't going to be an elf, and flipped enough coins that eventually.
Originally, I was going to be a wandering gnome. I liked the idea of being a wandering gnome, but Ollie wanted to play a dwarf, and I didn't want us both to be really short. I liked the idea of a tall character and a short character, like Legolas and Gimli. I don't know why. I just like that idea.
Fair enough. Well, as Mike said, I'm playing as Grom the Dunois dwarf. I'm also going to be a bard, but not necessarily a good one.
So this is part of our ongoing joke that Ollie is not a talented dwarven bard.
No, I've basically thought of the backstory of how could I have the skills required to be a bard without necessarily being good at what I do, because apparently to be a bard all you need is streetwise and deception, and history's good, but streetwise and deception is enough to get you in.
Exactly.
Which I just thought was amazing.
Well, Ollie takes the approach of if you can start playing on stage, then eventually they'll have to pay you to stop.
Yes, even if it's just because everything they threw at you missed or you caught.
Right, he's got a charity bowl on stage. If you're going to throw something, throw it in the bowl.
No, I've also customized instrument. It's a guitar that's got an axe head on it, because if you're that opposed to my music, I'll then decide to brawl.
Do you have a problem with my music? Yeah.
It's heavy metal, damn it.
The axe head, yeah. So so Hyrinx is sort of a catfolk type community. There are little villages dotted all around Terrinoth, and they're generally sort of keep to themselves. And these are the villages that exile their males when the males sort of reach a certain age and they're still unmarried.
It doesn't actually specify in the book what age they have to be. It could just be.
It actually says, I think, when the food supply or the resources are limited.
You could be 12 and then you're kicked out because of course you're not married by then.
Right, but only if they don't have enough food to feed you.
True, but still, there wasn't an.
Well, it's not stipulated, so we have to hope that they wouldn't kick out their children. But having said that, they do have a shorter lifespan than humans. So 12 for a catfolk might be quite old.
Like 25 for a human.
Unclear. If you know about the conversion of human years to cat years, leave a comment below.
Do you know what? Someone's gonna. I know this is dog years, but they're gonna just put it's 7 or something. It's just gonna be that.
Yeah. But we chose to do a sort of interpretation that the catfolk of this land live to about 60.
Yeah.
But they don't stipulate anywhere in the rules. So
there's no upper or lower limit on any of the races' lifespans. It just says can live for X amount of time. I mean, elves are basically immortal. So
yeah, it says the elves live for so long that they're considered by many to be immortal.
But hey ho.
But I wrote my age down as 28, but my intention is to be sort of approaching middle age.
I went for 36 because with a race of dwarfs, because you can live to be 100 and something, that's probably young enough that you can still screw up and be making your way in the world without being so old that you probably should have settled down on what you were doing.
And I'm a wildlander, which is sort of a woodland sort of survival hunter types. I mean, it's a ranger class basically.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of, because in Terrinoth there's all these ruins and sort of a lot of, I mean, obviously it's a fantasy universe and they want to give you this opportunity to go adventuring and exploring. But I just like the idea of being sort of this ranger that has to survive in this very treacherous land full of all these monsters and stuff like that.
And I mean, one of the good things on character creation is you get a certain number of skills you can do. And it says 2 of them must link to your race, 2 of them must link to your class. But because of how certain combinations can work, you get a lot of freedom to do the rest, and it encourages you to fit them in the backstory, which we've tried to do.
We've tried to do, yeah. Exactly right. And the Wildlanders are typically sort of defensive people as well. Like they'll protect villages and sort of protect the civilized areas as well. And I've got my skills. I've got stealth, survival, athletics, archery, dueling, which is like one-on-one combat. Because I figure if I'm in the wilds and hunting things, I'm probably not taking on like big armies and squadrons. I'm probably just sort of fighting like 1 or 2 people at a time.
Yeah.
And then I've got awareness and runes, because I figure wandering the wilds, I might come across some of these rune stones, and it's probably useful to understand them and use that magic.
And as a cat, you can see in the dark, so awareness makes sense.
Yeah. I also wrote that I have black fur, but that my paws and feet are white. So I wear gloves and boots to cover them up because I don't like people making fun of me.
Guess who's going to be doing that all through the game? I went for a dwarf character with history, streetwise, athletics, brawling, craftsmanship, willpower, and deception. Because I figure if you're going to be a fairly bad bard, athletics is good because you have to know when to run, and deception is mandatory because how else are you going to get paid? But willpower as well, because stubbornness in the face of overwhelming odds that you're unpopular on the stage. And craftsmanship was the only way I could think of having an axe.
They just don't understand my craft.
They just don't appreciate dwarven sagas that last for 7 days. For us, that's like a 10-minute concert.
You don't understand my art. So we've written up a short backstory for our characters that leads into the beginning of New Rose. So I hope that you'll indulge us while Ollie reads it for you.
Weary and dust-choked, Grom and Hunter approached the tavern as fast as their tired legs could carry them, something that was quite a challenge for the smaller dwarf. "Scuttle faster, Grom," Hunter hissed through his parched throat. "I need to wash the taste of your cooking from my mouth." "It's a family recipe." "Never said it was a good family recipe," the dwarf muttered. "And I'm moving as fast as I can, you pad-footed feline." Once through the threshold, the two warmed to each other considerably. After 3 weeks out on the road from Forge, even the closest of comrades can grate on each other, and Grom's visit to his kin in the Free City had reignited his bitterness over his exile from Dunwar. Hunter, on the other hand, had been growing more restless with each day since they'd first seen the smoke rise from the town's chimneys. Far more at home in the wild, even after their last mishap, he'd been actively looking for excuses to linger in the wild. That was, at least, until Grom offered to cook his grandmother's recipe for skrit stew. One taste of that, and the Wildlander had positively made a beeline for civilization. Several rounds of mead later, and after Hunter's customary preening, the two took stock of their supplies. The situation wasn't yet dire, but they needed a plan. Clean and full, Hunter longed to return to the wild as soon as possible, eager to get back to exploring old ruins and clearing the ways of roaming fiends. Grom, however, was eager for a warm bed and a fresh audience. Unslinging his customised guitar, his handcrafted axeman, named because of its unique axe blade over the body, just in case the crowd didn't quite appreciate dwarven sagas. He picked out a few chords, happy it was still in tune, wandered to the stage with a practised smile. Several hours later, Hunter found him up to his ankles in the mud outside. "These yokels have no appreciation for music," the angry dwarf grumbled.
And so we find ourselves at the tavern on the outskirts of Dragonholt. I suppose that's where we are. You slump down on the wooden bench, stretching your legs. You've been travelling for nearly a week now toward the small village called Dragonholt. Your journey is at the request of Celsi. Celisi? Celise? Your journey is at the request of Celise, a former adventuring companion and friend who has since found her calling as a tutor to the children of Countess Regina Fairfax, Lady of Dragonholt. You take a moment to reread her letter. So for this, you have to do the voice of Celise.
Me?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to do it?
You do it.
God, I can't really do
That's
good
why
female fantasy voices.
my voice is deeper than yours. I'm worried you thought I could.
So, so there's a few typos in this letter. I don't know if they're deliberate or not, but they spell elves with 2 L. They've spelled fear incorrectly. Down here they said I cannot say more with a U in it. I don't know whether this is like deliberate or not. There's up here they wrote they mixed up
Taken?
Yeah, taken the K and the E. And it really threw my reading off. So I'm going to start reading the letter again and I've edited that bit out. That letter here is 3 T's. I don't know if this is going to come back. Like, if they're going to be like, oh, she clearly put in spelling mistakes to try and...
I think it might be that this is a sign that the letter's been intercepted.
Yeah, do you think this is a sign that there's... Do you think these are clues or just... Well, we'll find out. And we'll look like idiots later when it turns out to be all deliberate.
Yeah.
My friend, I pray this letter finds you in good health for once, because I need you to travel. It's pray like... That's the wrong pray.
It's onkna.
Yeah.
Onkna.
Onkna, and also prey as in prey of a predator, not prey as in
yes.
prey.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to do it properly this time.
Do it all once.
I pray this letter finds you in good health for once, because I need you to travel. As you might have heard, I have taken a position as a tutor in the household of Lady Regina Fairfax, Countess of Dragonholt, just outside the village. I elected to take this position because I hoped for some peace and quiet after all that business in Narrock Hall. Had I known what my future held, I would have done something else entirely. Lady Regina's 3 children are more than lively enough to deny me anything resembling peace or quiet. Even now that they are mainly grown, I remain very busy. But I did not write to you to complain about my lot in life. As you know, I never complain, even when the so-called dwarven wine is very obviously an inferior human vintage. Again, or when my very favourite cloak, the blue one, is stained with some drunken lush spilling his wine. Elves should really stay out of human taverns. I write to you because I fear something sinister is at work here in Dragonholt, and I require your assistance. I dare not say more openly, as I think it is likely this message will be intercepted. I can trust no one here to help me at this matter. After that business in Narrock Hall, I have only you and a small handful of other allies left. Please help me. There is more at stake than you know. Celise. There we go.
Out of curiosity, which of the 2 of us do you think that was addressed to? Because the comments about dwarven wine being inferior kind of made me think maybe it was a dig at me. So she's probably your friend. and that comment at the end of a small handful was like, was that a pun? Was that a joke?
Right, like she really values my help and you're just kind of like the one she puts up with.
Yeah. Actually, that would fit exactly.
That kind of fits with our personas.
That fit with the idea we made up. I want that to be true.
You were uncertain why Celise summoned you to Dragonholt. Her letter is strange, speaking only of a vague threat that requires your assistance. And although you are sure the letter was written in her hand, the message contains several details that you find uncharacteristic of the elf you had ventured with in the past. You had never known Celise to drink dwarven wine, and you would swear she always wore a green cloak. It is not unthinkable that her preferences have changed over the years, but something about the way the message is written makes you feel as though there is more to the letter than is obvious. You have always known Celise to be excessively proper in her speaking. She must have been in a panic while writing to have produced so many spelling errors.
Thank you.
Even more alarming is the brief note on the back of the letter. You had not received any word from Celise before this one.
Ah. Please refer to my first letter.
You had not received any word of Celise before this one. Could she have sent another letter that was intercepted as she had feared? Regardless of the vagueness of her request, you owe Celise at least this much after the business in Narrock Hall. As the tutor in the employ of the Countess, she might be in a position to reward you handsomely for any assistance you can render. Excuse me? Excuse me? Is this road the fastest way to Dragonholt? You look up from the letter to see Mariam, a gnome merchant you've been travelling with, talking to another traveller, and pointing down the path towards a forbidden-looking forest. Aye, if you're going to Dragonholt, you'll have to go through the Eventide Forest. Ain't no way round it. Another day's travel straight through. Thanks! Mariam thanks the traveller, and he continues on his way in the direction opposite to the forest. You fold the letter and stow it away before standing. It won't do to rest for too long. You sling your baggage over your shoulder and prepare to resume your travels. Mariam turns to face you. Well, what are you waiting for? If that's the road to Dragonholt, let's be off! What is happening to her accent? Mariam has been travelling with you for 3 days now, and you don't know if you can take it anymore. Like she's travelling to Dragonholt, and as she put it, the more the merrier! We should proceed with caution, calls Braxton from behind you. The orc woman hefts Mariam's bag off the ground where the gnome had left it and drops it into Mariam's open arms. Rumor has it there are bandits out here who make camp in these woods. We should watch our backs as we pass through. Since Mariam and the orc knight-errant you have found... Do you know what? I was thinking of making like an orc knight-errant character.
I'm glad you didn't.
I'm glad I didn't too.
Yeah.
Since meeting Mariam and the orc knight-errant, you have found Braxton to be more cautious... You found Braxton to be more cautious of the pair by a wide the more cautious of the pair. As far as you can tell, Mariam has hired Braxton for protection, but at times the orc seems to dote on the gnome more than a bodyguard would. You nod in agreement at Braxton's comment. With the last fleeting glance at the crossroads signpost, you follow the energetic gnome, who's already started off towards Eventide Forest. And now we have a choice.
Ooh, what are the choices?
Let's make some headway before we lose the light. What else have you heard about these bandits? Stick close, Mariam. It's dangerous to get separated. Or wander off by yourself, Mariam, and go scouting.
Please, Mariam, come back when you know it's safe.
It sounds like you're trying to get rid of me.
Oh, that accent. Oh. Okay, so what should we do? Head on in, or should we rein her in? So, making decisions, we've got to decide between us. So, for multiple people...
But we have these activation tokens down here. So, when one of us will make a decision and flip the token, and then the next decision, Ollie or whoever has the green stone will have final say. So it's just essentially forcing us to take turns.
Yes.
On final determinations.
When you make a decision, you become the active player.
Hopefully we can agree.
Yes. Well, I'll let you have this one. It's fairly open-ended. Shall we go after her, or shall we stay put? Do we want to ask a question about bandits? Because to be honest, at this point, there's not much they can steal from us.
Well, I don't know. I feel like as a... that's true. We don't seem to have any items.
No, we've got 100 gold between us, and we don't quite know if that's good or bad.
Well, I wrote down that I have a bow and arrow and some clothes.
Well, I wrote down I've got a long axe / guitar. I did not put clothing, so...
But it also says when I took the runes skill that I would have some runes to start with.
Yeah.
But we haven't been... I thought it would say, like...
this is what you have to start with.
Yeah, or spend your gold on these items. It's assumed you've found them. But we haven't got to that. Maybe we'll still get to that point. It might not be relevant yet. Like I said, this is still sort of the tutorial. So... I feel like as the survival outlandish wilderness person, I probably wouldn't be like, let's just progress into the forest so that it's nighttime.
Fair enough.
I think I'd probably ask for more information about the bandits.
Yeah?
Because if it's like 1 or 2 bandits, then that's fine. But if it's a whole army of bandits, that's probably not safe.
To be fair, my vote was going to be for stick close, it's dangerous to get separated, or that.
Great. So let's ask... What else have you heard about these bandits?
7773? So it does tell you in the book, try not to read beyond it.
Braxton strides beside you, keeping an ever-watchful eye on her eager companion. Not much. I've just heard from some travelers that a number of caravans have been ambushed while passing through. Valuable goods were taken, but the merchants and traders have been mostly unharmed.
Mark story point, S1.
Story points are abstract recordings of the decisions you make throughout your adventures. They allow future entries or future quests to play out differently depending on the decisions you've made. Story points are recorded on the story tracking sheet.
There we go.
Some effects, like the one above, instruct you to mark 1 or more story points. To mark a story point, locate it by referencing its letter and number, then mark it with an X. Some effects in the future will be resolved differently if specific story points have been marked. So we've got 2 more choices here. We should hurry along before it gets dark. Mariam, best you don't get too far ahead.
So essentially we're faced with the first choice again, but slightly differently worded.
Well, this is your choice. This is your line, Ollie.
Mariam, bester, you don't get too far ahead. Because...
No, I'll look at you, cautious dwarf.
No, the slow dwarf.
She's smaller than you, but I think she might be more hyper.
She's a lot quicker than I am.
In my depiction of Mariam, she's really hyper.
Yeah.
The young gnome glances over her shoulder at you with a raised eyebrow. You're starting to sound like Braxton! She twirls to face you and walks backward down the road in front of you. Despite my size, I'm quite capable of taking care of myself, Braxton chuckles warmly to herself. I believe our new friend is worried for you, not because of your size, but because of your nature. Even though you can protect yourself, try not to worry about us too much.
I'm going to face a bet as to how long you can keep that voice up.
I really wish I'd given you one of these characters to do. Please tell me they're not with us for long.
3 days we've been with them.
Mark R6.
That's a choice though, isn't it?
No, mark story point R6.
R6.
And then we go to 1340. As you speak with your traveling companions, small trees begin to dot the terrain around you. Tall grass gives way to brush, and you soon find yourselves at the edge of the forest. Time passes. Throughout your adventures, you will track the passage of time on the tracking sheet for the current quest. Each unit of time represents an abstract amount of time that could be anything from a few minutes to multiple hours, depending on the current quest. When time passes, mark one of the box of times with a check mark or X. Some effects in future entries will reference how much time has passed or if a specific amount of time has passed. Right. So that's on the back of the New Roads book here.
Okay. So
there's also a thing here for marking entries red. But rather than writing all over my book here, I might just grab a piece of paper so that Ollie can help me keep track of this and I don't have to keep giving him this booklet.
Paper.
So if you're at time passes, and then write out 1 to 8. Cool. And then I guess we should probably be keeping track of things. So put down 7773. All right. Administration complete.
For now.
As you walk, you take the chance to become better acquainted with your fellow travelers. So we have the options: ask Mariam what she plans to do in Dragonholt. Ask Braxton what she plans to do in Dragonholt.
Oh.
This option does not exhaust your activation token. So I think this is just sort of flavor text about our companions here.
Yeah. Who do I want him to do the voice of more? Because Mariam is getting on my nerve, but I know that's causing him physical pain. So, Mariam, what do you plan to do in Dragonholt?
3579.
Wait, I've got to mark something, don't I?
Oh yes, E7.
E7.
I'm glad you asked!
Oh, I regret this.
Oh. Bubbles Mariam. Oh my god, it's so long.
Oh, I'm already enjoying this again.
I'm going to set up the first finest apothecary shop that Dragonholt has ever seen. I'll brew potions and sell remedies and make lots of money. She nods, tossing a vial of pink liquid into the air, catching it and balancing it on her finger for no particular reason. My aunt can help me get started. She already runs the best inn in town and she's a fantastic tailor too. Mariam flourishes her half cape with a brightly coloured tunic. Oh my god, there's so many questions from Mariam. This might have been a big mistake. Listen, I need a glass of water. We've been recording for a long time already, so that's all we've got time for today. We'll come back tomorrow to find out more of Mariam's backstory, or maybe never.
We'll find out if his voice lasts the paragraph.
We'll find out, yeah, if Mariam might have a sudden vocal surgery between now and tomorrow's episode.
Suddenly, she was punched in the throat and her voice changed completely.
It's not Baxter. Braxter? The orc fell on her. But thanks everybody for watching. We'll be continuing the journey tomorrow, so please come back and join us for that.
See you tomorrow.
I need water.
If I carried on with that, I was going to need to pee.